Hello and welcome to photographytv.com. Now I can guarantee you there's one thing that every photograph that makes you say wow has in common. And that's there's no wasted space in those pictures. During today's episode of Taking Better Pictures, we're specifically working on framing and composition and the technique of avoiding wasted space. And the way we're going to talk you through it today, we're going to talk about three things. First, controlling your viewer's eyes. Second, how to use space in wide-angle shots. And then third, how to fill the frame with tight shots. So let's go ahead and get started. So when you think about controlling the viewer's eyes, what I want you to think about is that anything in your frame, when you take a picture, your viewer could be looking at. And so challenge yourself to think about everything that's in the frame and where do you specifically want the viewer to be looking to really tell the story of that photograph. Let me bring this example to life with some photos. So let's start at our playground in the backyard. Here's what I would call a bad picture. So there's a lot of wasted space in this photograph. So the background, even the elements of the playground. If you think about controlling the viewer's eyes, where exactly should I be looking? And there's just obviously a lot of different things in a photograph that are just not adding value. That's the wasted space. So that's a bad example. Let me show you a little bit better example. Here's a second shot. This is a cousin Levi climbing up the rock ladder on the playground. So it's getting better because now at least I'm controlling the viewer's eyes. I want them to focus on the rock climbing and that element of it. But you can see there's still just a little bit of extra space, a little bit of wasted space in this photograph. So I'd say this is better, but still not good. Here's a third picture still at the playground. This is a much better use of space because now we're zoomed in tighter on Haley climbing that same rock wall. You can see we've avoided a lot of the wasted space, and here's a much better use of controlling the viewer's eyes. In fact, we're close enough now, we can see the expression, the candid expression on Haley's face climbing the little rock ladder there. So think about controlling the viewer's eyes, going from that wide angle, kind of pointless playground shot to getting closer and closer and showing exactly what we want to be focusing on by controlling the viewer's eyes. So that's tip number one. Now, number two, you might think, well, if I need to avoid wasted space, maybe I just need to shoot everything tight. But that's actually not the case. Think about these wide angle shots. You can still very properly use space and avoid that wasted space in wide angle shots. And the key to this is that everything in the frame should enhance the story of that picture and really add value. So let me show you a few examples to bring this to life. Here's a first wide angle shot. This is of Shaylin sitting in a tree. I love this shot because it was taken with an ultra wide angle lens, a 14mm lens. And while Shaylin was the initial subject of the photograph, the tree looks so cool going out behind her and just the different branches and the depth in the scene. The tree almost becomes the primary subject of this picture, and it's a wide angle shot. So it's a good use of space because the tree is a main subject of the photograph along with Shaylin. If I could critique myself on this photograph, I actually would have gone just slightly wider to get all of her legs into the frame. But in hindsight, I would have liked to have done that a little bit wider. But long story short, this is a good use of space, even in a wide angle shot, because the tree really adds value to that shot. So here's a second example of a wider angle shot. This is on the golf course, and you can see it's a wider angle shot, but everything in the frame is adding value. So you can see in the depth of the scene, you've got the hole in the background. Even with the sky, it's adding that sense of depth. You can see the ball frozen in the sky. Obviously, the golfer on the left. That's a good use of space, even in a wide angle shot, because everything is adding value to the shot. Now imagine if I had been 10 feet further back and that much more wide, then I would say there probably would have been wasted space in that shot because I didn't need to go any wider on this shot to add value to this photograph. So this particular angle, this particular shot was a good use of space, but any wider, it really would not have added any additional value to the scene. Therefore, that would have been considered wasted space. And here's another example of a wide angle shot. In fact, this was taken with a GoPro, but there's no wasted space. You could look anywhere in this frame and there's interest going on, whether it's the scoreboard, the people, the players on the field, the clouds. I mean, there's just so much interest in this shot, even though it's an ultra wide angle. So that's the second takeaway as you think about avoiding wasted space, is that using space properly in wide angle shots is all about making sure everything in the frame is adding a sense of location, is adding value to the frame in those wide angle shots. All right, now when you're not going wide and you want to isolate a subject in the photograph, the best thing you can do is go tight and fill the frame. This is really great for candid shots or individual photos of people, those types of shots. Fill the frame and go tight and really isolate the subject. And so here's a few examples. Here's the first shot of Ethan swimming. This is one of my favorite photos I've ever taken of Ethan because it's a really tight shot. Clearly there's no wasted space in this photograph. I love that you can even see the beads of water coming off of his goggles. You can see the water coming down his face. It's just, you get so much detail in the shot because I'm tight, right on the subject. Ethan swimming, obviously, and there's no wasted space in this photograph. I absolutely love that particular shot. Here's another tighter shot of my friend Lewis and his daughter Julia. This was on a camping trip that we had, but went in a little bit tighter, but I was still able to get the sunburst in the background, great focus on their eyes, and even though it's a little bit tighter, it's not that wide angle shot, it really is a good use of space, really telling the story that was Lewis and his daughter Julia in this shot, using the sun as an additional element in the frame. Here's a third example of just filling the frame, going a little bit tighter. It's Haley on that same camping trip, just holding up a leaf. Clearly her and the leaf and the woods in the background are the shot, but I didn't need to be ultra wide to give that sense of location. Clearly the leaf in the background was doing that, so I went just a little bit tighter on Haley, and it's just a good use of space in the frame. So as you think about framing and composition within your photographs, challenge yourself to avoid wasted space. If everything in the picture is adding value, you're going to have much better photographs. So do that by controlling the viewer's eye with exactly what you want them to see. If you do go wide, make sure everything is adding value, giving that sense of location. And then third, when you want to isolate your subject, fill the frame and go tight in on those shots for the extra detail and focus in the area of your subject. So that's this episode on avoiding wasted space, on framing and composition in the series Taking Better Pictures on photographytv.com. And so if you like this episode, the one thing I'll ask you to do as a takeaway, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube for photographytv.com. Please subscribe. It helps us out a lot. Thank you and have a great day, and thanks for watching photographytv.com. Subscribe.